Hi, my name's Callum from Prophecy. Today I wanted to take you through a master data management use case and prepared in Prophecy. So before we talk about mastering data, I think it's useful to understand what it actually means. Here I'm going to take a real world example of my personal experience where I used to own a credit card and I used to live in Sweden. Now, I also used to own a credit card and I used to live in America, and I also used to own a credit card and lived in Australia, and all of these I owned the same brand of credit card. Here, this golden record is my own date of birth and address and the various cards that I have owned and do own. One of the other interesting things is that it can see, okay, if there is a similar address, then we can make assumptions based on the relationship. This is kind of what gets built up with a master data management view, and it can be really, really valuable for many different reasons. But actually, as I said, this is a very, very personal demonstration here. I was a customer in all of these three regions, and in fact, in this really simple example, the company actually was continuing to market to me, even though I actually had that exact credit card. I used to get a letter every month from this company, even though I was already a customer. So wasted money in this case, not a huge deal, but there are many other things that customers or companies can do rather with mastered data. Now back to the demo. So you can see here I have three different data sources, not atypical to a lot of situations where organizations will have multiple records that have or multiple sources that have customer records in it. Now we're going to take the Marketo data with marketing information, the Salesforce.com extract with sales information in it, and then Zendesk with the extract of support tickets. What we want to do is identify unique customers across those three different sources. So there might be the case that a lead is also actually has been converted into a customer, and then that customer has had some support requirements. So what I've decided to do in this particular use case is define the problem in Markdown files. So I've actually defined it, and Markdown is just text files. You can see here I've uploaded this to Prophecy already, and you can see I have the business context. I won't bore you with all of the different things that I've entered in here, but I've defined what the source systems are to give the large language model some context, and then the specific data quality rules that I want to be defined. So validate the email format, and then some phone number settings and country mappings, etc. Some transformation logic, and then some matching and survivorship rules. Now, these are all things that you define in a master data management identity resolution type project. And I'm going to go ahead and let it run. Okay, great. So I can see that the DQ rules have been created. There's a number of them. I was expecting that because I've specifically requested each DQ rule, each data quality rule, to be in its own gem. Let me go back to the start. So I can see here that there's the Salesforce source, the Zendesk source, and the Marketo source. At any step in this pipeline, I can see where or what's happening. So I can see that there's some casting and some creation of new data. There's a filter. So I'm only looking for contacts and leads out of the Salesforce data set. And I can see that there's some other reformatting going on before a union is performed. And then I have all of the various data quality rules or data quality checks that you'll recall that I defined in this Markdown file. So DQ001 is a valid email format check. So if I go back to the pipeline, valid email format check. So if I open this, a regular expression, which is a pretty common way in which you can sort of validate the structure of an email. There's also some additional checks to make sure that it's not null. I can go and query any of these, This is actually a custom gem that I've created. It's probably not particularly relevant, but I've actually gone and created this gem just to make case statements a little easier to read. And then I now have this DQ scored output. So if I play this pipeline, or rather run the pipeline from beginning to end, I should have a DQ scorecard. Okay, great. So that ran successfully. If I look at the output here, I can see the party information. And if I scroll all the way across, what I can see here is the result of these data quality checks, and then how many of them have passed. Then there's a data quality score, which is great. I mean, I haven't defined this score, but this is a really great methodology. Here we've got a threshold of some type, basically rejecting records that don't satisfy a certain level of data quality, which is a really common approach in master data management. There were some specific directions that I gave it in the Markdown file. So you can see on fail, I can warn, or I can actually reject with some of the, so for example, this one here, the opportunity account must exist. So the next thing I'm going to do is perform the transformations, and then I'll apply the matching and survivorship. Okay, so we have this standardization data flow that takes the DQ data that was defined up here, the scored output, and then we're applying some different normalization of phone numbers, normalization of countries. So if I look at this, you can see here that if it's the United States or variations of, then we'll output US. So this is some transformation logic that super handy to be able to just go and define in that Markdown file, and then it being automatically converted by Prophecy's large language model to this standardized output. So if I now run this, I'll have this standardized output that I'll be able to use as the input for my matching and survivorship rules. So if I look at this, I can see what the source system was, the ID in that source system, and then the various details, and then obviously the previous output of the DQ rules. A lot of this information has been standardized now, which is excellent. The next thing I'll do is create the third pipeline. So now that prompt is completed, finding the matching and survivorship rules, I can see that I actually have a complete MDM pipeline chain. So I've got the DQ treatment for the first pipeline, the second pipeline, the transformed data, and then the third being the mastered data. And I can see here I've got the cross-reference tables down below being treated. There's some window functions happening there, and I could go into the details of those if I wanted to. And I could actually query at any point in time, of course, and this is why Prophecy is so powerful, to be able to query at any stage in the pipeline what's happening to the data. I can see that this custom gems being used with various input columns and checking for nulls. And I'm presented with this master data set here, which is my master data. It's obviously going to be used in conjunction with this cross-reference data. And cross-references really are a collection of both relationships between the records and actually the information that goes into building that mastered record. So if a particular record was made up of multiple records from, let's say, one record from Salesforce, one record from Marketo, and one record from Zendesk, then that cross-reference table would have all of that information stored, whereas the golden record would just have that single record with references back to those cross-references. So I have mastered data here, which won't have any duplicates in it, or if it does have duplicates, it'll mean that I just need to tighten up my matching and deduplication rules. So I can check that in just a moment. But the final thing that I want to do, and the last prompt that I'm going to make as part of this demonstration, is I want a way in which I can visualize these records. So I'm going to say create. Okay, we'll see how that goes. So create an interactive analysis where I can enter a party name and this party will be shown. Also, I want a dynamically updated table to show the cross-reference records, so that the records that have gone into making that golden record. So I can see that the prompt has come back. And if I scroll across to the right-hand side, I can see the orange boxes here are some visualizations, or what we call analysis. I'm going to go ahead and do, or click on this party search analysis. I will minimize both of these other windows so I can see the whole thing. Here I can search on a particular party ID. If I just choose, let's say 16, I'll go ahead and run this. Okay, it's complete. Here I have this party record called Aisha Murphy, and I can see all of the mastered information about her. So this is the golden record. Interestingly though, if I look down at the source record cross-reference table, I can see that this golden record is made up of 3 separate records, one from Salesforce.com, where she's a contact, Marketo, where she was lead, and then Zendesk as a requester. So here are the different source IDs, and then some of the other rules and some of the other information that we retrieved from these systems to create that golden record. This is a really quick way in which I can deduplicate and create some sort of master data management within Prophecy. I hope this has been interesting, and obviously please feel free to email me with any questions. But I think the most significant thing here is that I really decided to use Markdown files as the primary source of my transformation logic, and this is a really powerful way in which we can standardize on some of the data quality rules, the transformation rules, and the matching and survivorship that is so integral to any master data initiative. If you have any other questions, please feel free to contact me, callum@prophecy.io. Thank you very much.